Great morning.
Great morning.
Great morning.
Great morning.
And welcome back to another episode of Great Morning. I'm your host, Christian Murmur, Merms, Dog, whatever the fuck you want to call me. And to the top left of my computer screen, we have the Fact Queen, my sister from the East, that Puerto Rican mamacita from Spanish Harlem, Stephanie 2.0. How you doing?
Oh, okay, guys. How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing?
Great. I hope everyone's doing great. Let me tell y'all something.
Yes.
For the first time in life, right? Someone is like actually intimidated by me, like in the office, and it's crazy.
Why?
It's been driving me nuts.
What have you been doing? You've been yelling at them?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Something happened, and I kind of like chimed in, but it's kind of my job.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And the person, I would want to assume that he, like, the way he interprets the email was just like totally left. And it was like his response back to me was like super emotional. And I'm just like, dude, like, I think you're reading into this whole situation. I was just saying, like, that's something, what you did was kind of unusual. And, I just wanted to state the facts really quick. And ever since then, it's been like the whole work environment has been super weird, and then like now all of a sudden, they're like, oh, hey, remember your work laptop is your work laptop, just be sure that, you're not doing anything personal.
What, someone watching porn at work?
No, absolutely not. But so what happened was that my work laptop, unfortunately, I she caught a virus because I was gonna watch movies.
You said what? Are you watching porn? What kind of movie? What are we talking about? This is sounding more and more like you've been watching porn at work.
It was like 1, 2, 3 movies or something like that. And I was just like, I could listen to like the movie while I work, So that was what I wanted to do. And all of a sudden, like, I freaking caught a virus. And so I let our IT people know, so on and so forth. So long story short, I had that issue and we had already resolved it. And the dude that felt some type of way with the initial email, he came out of nowhere and like he unofficially promoted himself to another position.
You can do that?
Huh?
I think she's being sarcastic.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because like could I just walk into a place and unofficially promote myself? That'd be awesome.
No, I'm not even being sarcastic. Like I'm being for real.
How do you do that? How do you do that to yourself? How do you unofficially promote yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. So, and like all of this happened because him and I had a discussion regarding that email when I had already, said, hey, I'm sorry. I don't want any problems with anyone, whatever. I apologize. And like a week later, he responds to it and he's like, and I'm just like, dude, like, I thought that was water under the bridge. So I went up to him and I decided to speak with him. And he drew a pyramid, right? Like,
okay.
Like, and like a whole like hierarchy, like who's who. And he's like, here's the boss, here's Lenny, here's myself. And then he drew like the bottom. And before he even started to draw the people that were like below, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, but I don't belong. I hope you don't think that I belong down there because I'm the executive assistant. So I would actually be like up there. So ever since then.
This is fucking funny. You know why it's funny? I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, but it's funny because I forget what maybe it was Louis C.K., but someone made this joke about like when we get older, our fights with people from like the office and like email fights are so much different than how you'd actually confront someone in real life. Like in real life, you'd start yelling at someone for fucking you over or whatever. But at the office, it's like you email someone and you're just like, back in June when I emailed you and you didn't do the things I asked, I was very disappointed. Like that's so ridiculous that this is like, this guy drew like that's all just to get back at someone that pissed them off a little bit at the office. Like, you know what? I'm going to make a pyramid here and put everyone's position.
Right.
Like they got the free time to do that. It's a little ridiculous. It's a little childish, but yet there's still that shadow of being an adult over it. Like we're not just yelling at each other and beating our fists or whatever. You know,
right.
Doing this little, like, this is the adult way of me saying, go fuck yourself. Like that's what this all is. It's all culminating to that.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got beef in the office.
Beef in the office.
Wow.
John, I have like there's some tension going on, and you know I'm just like I've never been in a situation where someone, you know, is acting emotional off of an email.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, it was because he felt like the tone, quote unquote, when I said, this is how it should have been done. You should have spoken to HR and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, he felt some type of way. And I was like,
I think the underlying issue is just like, I think people are going through other things in the workplace, and I think they tend to take it out on other people. Like he may have had a really shitty week and decided, you know what, the first person to say anything to me today, I swear to God, they're going to get the most elegant email they've ever received. So like, yeah, I mean, it happens, you know?
Yeah. And like, he also said that that everybody in the office feels like, you know, I don't say hi and I only work with the executive and the owner, and that I'm not, but I'm just like, that's kind of.
Well, see, now you should, next time you go into work, you should start like everyone you see, just walk around with this big ass smile on your face. Every person that passes you, just be like, good morning. Like, and like, they'll be like caught off guard.
Great morning, guys.
Just say like, good morning. They'll be like, oh shit. Hey, yeah. Good morning. And just be friendly. If you're only talking to them. Yeah. There's these often, it's so funny. It started with me in the Navy when you'd start hearing about, believe it or not, like even in the Navy, stuff like
no
that.
way.
You know, someone would email you and be like, you know, petty officer, when I emailed you back, like exactly like that. And you're like,
you really?
The fuck is going on? Like it's the adult way of us expressing that we're really, really upset with someone in the office. So that's just, if you continue to work in an office for the rest of your life, you get promoted, you go to a different job, wherever the fuck, I don't think that's ever going to leave. I don't think that's ever going to stop for people who work in an office with other people. Because how can you not? Part of me believes some people want excitement in their life, and they find it in little ways sometimes like that. And work can be boring. We all know that. Even if you have a great job, even if you like your job, it can still be very boring sitting in an office behind a computer, you know, doing the daily, like, oh, it's noon, let me go grab my lunch, you know, doing it gets the routine gets to people sometimes. It gets repetitive. So they look for little things to brighten up their day. And sometimes that involves conflict, antagonizing people. Unfortunately, it's not right. It's actually, when you break it down like that, it's actually a tad bit sadistic. But I mean, you know, that's just how people are. Some people look for excitement in their life. So you just gotta deal with that, unfortunately, Stephanie.
Yeah.
That's interesting because, you know, coming up when I first got my internship at Def Jam, and, you know, I grew into that position and finally got my marketing position. It's interesting because we didn't do that. We didn't have any office beefs. Like we would have like a conference room, and whenever somebody felt some way, they would basically like put in a vote to have a conference meeting, and we'd have what's called a 100. And a 100 was a time where everybody can open up about how they really felt about everyone in the office.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so if you didn't like what such and such said at the last event, or if somebody is not doing their job, or you feel like they're throwing more of the work on you, you could actually express that without any type of penalty or someone retaliating against you. And it was put out there so that way everybody would know everyone's situation. So if you saw that let's say somebody at the top was coming at you, It's like, oh, we know why you're doing that. You're doing that because she called you out in that meeting, and we know exactly what the dialogue is between you two. So yeah, I mean, I loved having those 100s because it just made everything solid. People worked better together. Even people who didn't like each other ended up being friends later because
That's
you can't
awesome.
bottle that up. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you were able to
amazing.
express that. See, now that sounds that's one of the best ways that I've heard so far. I mean, I haven't worked in a million office places, but that sounds like that would work best.
Yeah.
Just being able to, you get like your 5 minutes or not even sometimes to be like, listen, this is a little bit of, this is some bullshit right here. And I'd like to say it out loud. And then everyone's kind of like, they can listen and be like, all right, he said his piece.
Right.
Got it off his chest.
It identifies issues in the office earlier. Like, for instance, you may say, yeah, I don't like this BS that happened yesterday. And then all of a sudden you got 17 other people saying, yeah, we didn't like that either.
Exactly.
And so now you can address it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just getting it off your chest is just nice because then again, it won't lead to like what Stephanie had to deal with, where someone's like goes home and they're all fuming. They're like, "That's it tonight. I'm going to spend time. I'm going to make a pyramid of everyone's visit," like doing some shit like that.
That's crazy. I'm going to draw a pyramid.
Yeah, I really felt like that was extremely unprofessional. Like that's tacky. You don't do that. Like,
did he use a pen or a pencil, or did he like make it in Canva or something?
Yeah, PowerPoint.
No. Well, guys.
What?
Like, no. First of all, so I don't really remember, or rather like it's more so of a blur. Because I think he did when I started working there. He decided to pull me, to the side and, I guess explain everyone's role in the office. And
so in other words, know your place.
Right. And, I like respectfully, I wasn't really paying attention to that because I don't feel like that's appropriate for you to do. And, like not only did we discuss that, but he just like, oh, like I want to know like your background, and he wanted to know. Well, no, in the sense
Wait, like a background check. What is he talking about?
No, it was like more so in the sense of like,
where you worked.
Are you
previously?
No, like, are you good with Excel? Are you good with this? So
it's like a resume stuff.
If someone needs help and you have free time, like stuff like that. And I was, and I explained and I told him, what I can do and whatever. And then actually now that I think about it, he did have the whole pyramid thing, and I didn't really pay attention to it. But when like he did it again, and he actually brought it to the director of the company's attention. Like he came with the laptop, with the email open, and he was like, I don't like this. I don't like how she said this, that, and the third. Way my director said, he was like, with all due respect, I'm sorry. He said he came over here with a titty attack. Like,
why he sound so zesty?
I don't know. Like, and then and the cutest thing of it all is that he's like super, like he's skinny and short. He's like my height, kind of, so it's like,
how tall are you?
And it's just been a really weird week and a half for me at work. And for me to find out, like, after the fact, all of a sudden this man went from operations manager to administrative director, and and I really feel like this is off the strength of me telling him, like, there's only two executives in this corporate office. There's the owner, the owner, and then the executive director, which is Lenny, and then there's the executive assistant, which is myself. Then we have the operations, and we have everybody else, so it's like this machismo, like, I'm not gonna have a woman tell me how.
Oh, you think it's that? Okay.
I am a professional. And I was like, well, if you're a professional, then you should have known that what you did, it wasn't the right thing to do. So this is more so of like, I can't believe this girl that just came out of nowhere, she's questioning the way we operate here as a company. But that's overall, like that's kind of my job.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, I'm really sorry to hear that you're going through some troubles at work, and hopefully we can get through. I know coming on the podcast and being able to vent a little bit, I hope that at least helps.
Yes, thank you guys.
Of
Dear
course. Dear diary, yes. Well, anyway, I hate to cut you off, but
please.
Stephanie, we do have a guest today.
We do, and I'm
really
excited.
And not just any guest, we have a new guest, first time appearing on the podcast, right?
Yes.
Yes, Stephanie, do you think it's time?
I think it's motherfucking time.
I think it's time we introduce our guest. And before we introduce him, there's a lot to say about this man. We were doing some research on him when Stephanie was the one who found this gentleman here today with us and wanted to get him on the podcast. We all do our little individual research on the person coming on. So there's a lot to say about this person. We're going to discuss that in depth with him in a second. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce him right now. We have with us a seasoned music executive with apparently, from what I've read, over 19 years of experience, it said. Am I correct in saying that?
That is definitely correct, yeah.
Over 19 years in this. So my friend, King John, please introduce yourself. Tell us how you're doing today.
I'm great, man. Yeah, it's me, man. John Kwatakye-Atiko. I appreciate you guys for having me on this morning.
Of course. Yeah, we're so glad to have you here on Great Morning. This is your first time, so I know with new guests, we like to do a little bit of an interview and see what they're up to and see what they've been doing for all this time. So I know earlier you already, we can start there. You already mentioned that you started as an intern, right? With, I think you said it was Def Jam Records, right?
At the time, it was Island Def Jam. They were together.
Island Def Jam.
Yep.
Yeah. So you started as an intern. That was 19 years ago?
Yeah. Actually, 19 years. I was about 15 when I was 19. 19 years ago. I was about 15 years old. And okay. I was running my own little independent label. I was actually an artist. I was putting out my own music. And so the story goes, I was putting out my own music and I was trying to shop my own music around. I'm a kid saving my money, printing my own music, going to Jamaica Avenue and getting the CDs pressed up for me and my buddies. And we were like giving our music out for free because we knew that, who knows us? Nobody's going to pay for our music if they don't know who we are. So we gave them samplers and stuff like that. But anyway, moving forward, a year later, my cousin, DJ Enigma, he's a DJ in New York City. He goes what we call vinyl hunting, because when you go to different labels and you pick up the vinyl from the record company. So you can go to Sony, you can go to Warner Brothers, you can go to Def Jam, and you can pick up the latest music to play it in the clubs if you're a DJ. Mm-hmm. So he brings me with he takes me with him on his vinyl run. And so I'm at all these different record companies and I'm like, wow, man, I really want to be here. I want to know what it's like to work behind the scenes. And so he's like, man, listen, come with me and, I'll introduce you to some people. So I go to each label with him and, I end up going up to Island Def Jam where I met Kendall Freeman and Steve Carless. And these guys, their office was a mess. Things were all over the place. Papers everywhere, CDs everywhere. And I'm looking around and the first thing that comes to my mind is opportunity. I said, man, listen, if I can convince these guys to let me clean this office every day, I'm sure in return they could teach me the business. And so I make the offer. I say, hey guys, listen, I know you don't know me, but I'm just letting you know, if you give me an opportunity to clean this office up, I would love to do that. That way you guys can be having everything in order here. They're like, man, listen, can you start tomorrow? And I'm like, wow, okay. And I just immediately jump right into it. I'm like, the next day I'm on the train, the A train from Far Rockaway to New York City. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to work at Def Jam. Oh my God, this is like my dream.
Amazing.
So my first day I get there, I'm walking up the what do you call it? The escalator, getting up the escalator.
Yeah.
And there's an elevator right there in the middle of the lobby. So I see the doors open, it's about to close. And I ask the person, hey, can you hold it? And they hold it for me. Their arm kind of just sticks out and holds the elevator door. And I get in the elevator and it's Jay-Z.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God, what the heck is going on here? I didn't expect that. I was really shocked. But I asked him, I said, oh my God, so you're Jay-Z? He said, yeah, I am.
Yeah,
I'm Jay-Z. He said, yeah, I am. I'm like, all right. I said, can you give me some advice? I said, it's my first day here. And he's like, oh, okay. So what are you going to be doing? I said, I'm in the marketing department. He says, listen, just stay to yourself. That's what I can tell you. So you stay out of trouble. He said, because if you talk too much to too many different people, you don't know, sometimes people get jealous and they'll kick you out of the building. So, just mind your business. And I took that advice. Yeah. Stayed to myself. And only worked with people who are very close to me, who built that relationship with me moving forward.
Mind your business. I like that advice. That's always some great advice. That's like I remember my grandpa would give me advice like that. Christian, always mind your business. And he always said this one I still listen to this day too. He said, if something seems too good to be true, most of the time it is. And he always said that before I went like traveling. He's like, like pretty much like, if girls all of a sudden are all over you and saying like, hey, follow us over here, and these are pretty girls and stuff, he's like, that shit's too good to be true. He's like, don't fall for that shit.
That's a wise man.
A wise man right there. Yeah. So, okay. So you started as an intern, you met Jay-Z. How long were you an intern there then before you were, officially working?
It's funny because it's like how it works is like sometimes you can get like regular employment and the other times you get like contract work. So I had more of a contract work with them. So I was an intern for about 3 years. So that's like 04 to like the end of 06. And so, like in 04, we were putting out the Kanye West record. This was Kanye West's first album in 04. This is College Dropout. Yeah. And then you have the next few, that's the golden era of Def Jam Island.
Oh yeah.
And you have Rihanna coming out like I think it was a year and a half later with Pon the Replay. It's just so many things just kept coming. And then 06, we have Mariah Carey, Emancipation of Mimi. It was just so amazing, like just being a part of that. But I believe in 06 is when I stopped being an intern, and I was able to do some contract work with them via marketing.
So what did you do exactly in the, I know the general idea of marketing in that, but I've never worked there. So like, can you explain to the listeners what the marketing for them was like for you?
Absolutely. I mean, we'll make sure the type of marketing we did was like, it was mostly related to radio. So getting DJs and stuff to actually play the record and sending records around the world to different countries and, keeping those relationships open because, Def Jam, we had a motto, respecting the DJs. And so the idea was to always have these very close and tight relationships with these DJs from around the world. So you would be marketing, via MySpace, you'd be marketing via email, you have to send people packages in the mail. It's like sending love letters like, hey, man, we loved your last set. You were so amazing. Here's that new Rihanna record. Make sure you play it. Because no one knows who this girl is yet. She's brand new at this time.
Yeah.
It's like, so in order to get these, and you may think just because you're Def Jam Records, it's just easy to send a record out to somebody and someone will play it. You'd be surprised. People are like, I don't care who this kid is signed to. This is garbage.
Yeah. So 2006, you started doing the contract work. So were you, I'm trying to think exactly where, I'm like, trying to remember the early 2000s, like what, so 2007 then I believe that's when Kanye dropped Graduation. Was that 2007?
I believe so. Yeah. Kanye was definitely still on Def Jam at that point in time. Yeah, he released Graduation, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that was 2007. Okay, so you started doing that for a bit. When did you leave and then start your own company, which we'll talk about in a few minutes as well?
Oh well, in between that, I left in about 09. 09, I stopped dealing with Def Jam altogether in 09. I went off. I was working with Mike Mills. He was assigned to MBK Entertainment. That's the former home of Alicia Keys.
Yes.
So I used to work with Mike Mills there, and we were working on his project. I also worked with an artist by the name of King Phase. He worked with a lot of D-Block artists like Jada Kidd, Styles P, and Sheek Louch. So he had a song called Yonkers Anthem. It was actually featuring Styles P, Sheek Louch, and DMX.
Okay.
And, it was a pretty good song. He also went off later to do a song with Billy Ray Cyrus. The song was called Lately. It appeared on the Brother Clyde album, distributed by Walt Disney Records. So I was around all these different things that were happening.
Oh yeah.
And, it was very exciting at the same time. It taught me a lot of lessons about the business myself, and that you never really make it. You're always fighting to stay afloat. That's everyone in the business. And you don't just, like a guy like Drake, he's always working. He's consistently meeting people. He's consistently doing projects. He's consistently collaborating with others. The minute you slow down and you lose momentum, you can find yourself right back where you started. So I always tell people, you got to stay on top of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So was that around the time when when did you first have the idea of starting your own entertainment industry, right? With Popular Demand.
That's years later. The Popular Demand was launched this year.
So, but when did you get the idea of wanting to do that? Like, when did that come to you?
I've always wanted to do it, Chris.
Yeah,
always wanted to do it. The problem is that how can you put this? You have what do you call gatekeepers, and it's like it's gatekeepers. There's a lot of politics. And I know we don't talk about politics on the show, but there's music industry politics.
You can talk about, I meant like general, like, Republican, Democrat kind of politics. If you want to talk about politics of the music industry, that's perfully.
The music industry has their own politics, man. I'm talking about what team are you on? What camp are you with? And what producer are you working with? Back then, it was like if you didn't work with a certain producer, you couldn't even get on the radio. If you didn't work with a certain writer, you weren't getting a record deal. That's just how you didn't have a certain attorney and you couldn't afford the retainer, you weren't getting a deal because the attorneys do all the deals. Deals don't go through. I can't go to Def Jam and say, hey, sign me. They're going to say, who's your attorney? And if I don't say Burt Bedell at the time, they're like, well, we only work with Burt. So get out of here. You see what I'm saying? Scram, unless you get the money to pay him because they don't accept unsolicited material.
So was that the only way to get somewhere then? Was it all came down to money?
At that time, before years ago. But now it's been so opened up. It's like there's all this freedom now. You see artists starting their own labels now. It's just more simple.
It's crazy that it lasted. It seemed to last that long like that because like the way you're talking about like pretty much going back and now, now it's almost 20 years ago, but it doesn't feel that way to us, but like going back to like you said, like 2006 or something, right? That is, it sounds the way you're talking about the music industry then, it sounds almost the same as if someone was talking about it in the 1950s.
Yeah, very much. Because again, things were based on, you got to understand something. There was no Instagram. There was no Facebook that was like as big as it is today. There was no Twitter where you can actually go out there and promote your music independently. There was no way for you to get your music to other people. Social media has opened up this floodgate of opportunity for people to take their music from their homes into other people's homes without having a third party to intervene. So it's like you can make a post and then attach your song to it and thousands of people hear it instantly. And now they run the iTunes or Apple or Spotify and they stream your music. Whereas before, in order to get your music into the hands of millions or anyone, you needed a label to distribute you. Yep. If you didn't have a distributor, you were not getting anywhere. You didn't have any way of getting into Apple or Spotify. There weren't these independent music companies who were releasing digital releases for artists. So you had to have a record. I remember, what was it? The Orchard? You used to have to be signed to the Orchard, which was like the independent version of a major label. But if you had a deal with Orchard, that means that you were able to like release your music. And this was like the beginning where independent artists were like coming up. There was no CD Baby yet. You see what I'm saying? There was none of these other little tools that you have now today. It was just, if you can get signed to the Orchard, that's for people who are not major, but they're indie. That's how they started. They started on smaller companies like that. And it was very difficult to get the attention of them. They were just as worse as the record labels. They were like, oh, you don't have 1 million people following you? We're not giving you a deal. So it was very difficult to do this independently. And it also, if you weren't a part of like Merlin or one of those, they have like these societies where they represent all these distributors. You had to become a member of those organizations like Aim to Aim and, Merlin. They have other organizations as well. And you pay into these memberships and then they allow you to be a distributor. But then you have to find somebody who's like a parent distributor to support you because you don't know what you're doing yet. There's all these systems involved in how the, the streaming services accept music, or the, how Apple would accept music. There was formats that you had to follow. And this is why you had to have a parent, like a co-signer distributor. And this is why I didn't do it before, because it was just very difficult.
Yeah. Well, that makes complete sense to me. But I was wondering, with that comes the idea of how, like you said, how social media has helped artists now get out there, or just any entertainment person to just be able to get out there and show their stuff to, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and just have it viewed possibly by millions of people. Now, do you think, though, that influx of more artists being out there readily available to anyone like me, I could just go on Instagram right now and probably find like 10 new people I've never heard of. Do you think that's made it more difficult to discover like truly talented people out there? Or do you think it's helped with that? Or do you think it's not, it's like in the middle, like, maybe a little bit of both?
Something that's very funny. It's I would tell you the same way I tell my homeboys, right? When we used to go out to the clubs and stuff like that, they used to say, yo, John, man, there's mad dudes in here, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's only a few girls in here. This man I said, but listen, bro, it ain't about how many dudes is in here. It's about which one of us are marketing ourselves to them better. Yeah, I don't care if it's 1,000 men in the room. If I walk in the room, I'm gonna get some attention because I know how to get it. I get it by not being readily available. Like some guys, they're thirsty. They'll walk up to a girl and they're like, "Hey, mom, what's your name?" He's trying to get her name, her number, all this stuff instantly. Women don't like that aggressive tactic. Some women do, some women don't. Me personally, I play the bar. I sit at the bar, get me a drink, mind my business. I don't even look women in the face. All of a sudden, they're looking at me. And then when we make eye contact, we kind of play that game back and forth, and then we start politicking later. But the whole point is they like that mysterious person in the corner. They don't want you drooling and dripping over them. So the same thing goes with music. You know, you put music out, you know, you do it in such a way where it's almost like you're teasing people. You know, you're not trying to force them to click on this link to go to Spotify. You're almost having like a party. You're chilling. You're hanging out with your friends. You got bottles and stuff. Now people are like, who is this person? They click on them. All of a sudden they hear the music. They're like, oh, shoot, this joint is hot. You see what I'm saying? It's because you're not forcing it down your throat. Nobody wants to be sold anything. People want to have experiences. So that's what we did in the marketing. We built experiences around people. We would take, like, for instance, with like a Neo, in my own words, that album we put out through Def Jam, through Island Def Jam. There was a point where we went to Best Buy right there in Columbus Circle, not Columbus Circle, that's Union Square, 14th Street in Manhattan. So that Best Buy that was there right there, we were doing a signing thing for Neo, where he signed some autographs. At this point, nobody really knows who he is. So what we do is we get a couple models who are drop dead gorgeous. We give them Neo posters and have them stand outside of Best Buy cheering and chanting for Neo. And so like girls are walking by and they're like, who's coming?
Who's Neo?
Who's Neo? And they're like, yeah, Neo's coming. He's an amazing singer. And they're like, okay, let me get online too. And all these women start getting on the line because they're looking at these beautiful models and they're like, well, if they're here for him, these beautiful women that I wish I looked like, if they're going to stand here for this guy, I'm going to stand here for this guy too. And we had a whole entire line of women waiting out there to see and meet this guy. It's like, that's the type of experiences we're talking about building. That's
incredible. That's a great idea. Yeah. So that definitely comes on the marketing side there. You know how to sell, you know how to sell this. Like this is a big, you know how to take something and make it seem like a big event. And that's how you fucking sell something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what everything is. I mean, you take a bag of chips, they make it look so larger than life in the commercials. It's just a bag of potato chips.
Yep. It's just a fucking bag of chips.
It's just a fucking bag of chips, but they got this commercial and somebody's jumping off a fucking cliff. It's so damn grand for a bag of potato chips. It's like, what the hell is this? But yeah, that's the concept, is to make yourself larger than life. That's all. And that's what most artists are missing. They're missing that key component of being impactful. This is why when you look back in hip hop and you say, who is some of the greatest performers? You look at somebody like an Old Dirty Bastard or fucking Busta Rhymes. It's because they were so colorful, so explosive. They were very different. Once you heard them, you were like, yo, I got to see that guy again. And, you know
what to expect.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. So you have, though, I saw that, you know, it's written in a couple places with you, but that you have an eye for talent. We can talk about that for a second. The eye for talent. So what are some things, I think you mentioned a little bit here, but what are some things that you are immediately looking for when it comes to someone with talent? What are some things that you can recognize and be like, all right, this is someone right here?
An artist who's versatile. Like if I listen to your music and you have different sounds that you play with and you can engage those sounds together, to me, that catches my eye very quickly. Another thing that catches my eye is not even just the talent itself, it's how much you work. It's the work that you put into your stuff. It's like, if I know I can work with you, then we can work on talent. That's the thing. Everybody, when we look at people, we say, oh, that person's talented. Some people are born with talent and some people gain talent over time. You know, I've seen artists who started out and it was like, okay, they're an okay artist. And then 8 years down the line, it's like, wow, that artist is a star. Oh, yeah. May not have been born with it, but he sure as hell got it now. So the things I look at is the work. I look at the sounds. Can you stand the test of time? That's the question. Can you stand the test of time? 10 years from now, can you still put out music, or will you become irrelevant? I listen to artists today. I listen to what the stuff that they're signing. I'm saying, okay, this is obviously trending, but will this trend last 10 years?
Yeah.
Remember, you're You're investing in an artist. You got labels putting in $250K, $500K, $1 million into these people's career. They're not doing that for just one song. They're doing that to set up this system of releasing music every year. They don't want this artist to just disappear. Nobody puts out a record to be a one-hit wonder. They want to have a consistency in their career. So the question is, can they do that? Is that realistic looking at the type of music that they make? If you make a one-hit song, but you don't have anything after that, or you don't, or the next 5 years, you don't know how to elevate, then where are you going? Like Justin Bieber did that perfectly.
Yeah.
You know,
so
he did it perfectly.
So like another problem with that is just the gamble of knowing, like you said, knowing exactly what will still be popular. Sometimes not even like 15 years from now, 20 years from now, but will this even be popular next fucking year? You know? So for instance, I wonder if like the people, we can go back, let's go back in the 70s and look at even a larger picture than the artists themselves. Like, I wonder if back then they were like, oh, disco is going to be popular for 100 years or something. The disco is going to be like rock and roll where it's never going to die. And then it's like disco was popular for like fucking 5 years and people got sick of this shit. Same with what was that other one in like the end of the early 2000s? What was that shit called? Where it did a lot of the boy music. What was that called?
Oh, the boy band music?
No, not that. It made those like loud techno noises. I can't think of it right now. What was that? It was called something. I can't remember. But it's not popular anymore. It was like,
wow.
Anyway, it was something like that. But yeah, like disco, like, you know, hip hop has obviously stood the test of time. We've realized that now. It's been plenty of time now. Rock and roll, even pop music, even though pop music changes, that's still pretty much stayed. But like, yeah, I wonder if the people who were in similar positions as you back then, like thought generally, like, I think this is going to be a good idea. This is going to be something that's going to last. Or if they maybe didn't know, maybe it was just trendy.
You know what it is? Let me say something. The funny thing is that, you know, back then, you know, there weren't they didn't have all the data we have today.
Yeah.
You know, so we have chart metrics. We have all these different things that we can look into, all these analytics, and all these tools that we can kind of dig in deep and figure out where everyone is. Back then, they had no clue. You know what they knew? They knew people wanted to party. They knew people wanted to get high. They knew people wanted to have fun. That's what they knew. They were not selling music back then. They were selling entertainment. Again, we wanted to entertain people. So you would bring people to a club, and then you would have a girl who sings. And then she would sing, and then somebody got a bright idea and said, well, let's make these into records. And so people could take this home with them and listen to it on their little player, you know, with the vinyl. But the point is that whenever you see music, the music is really there to entertain you. It's not really it wasn't about the music. It was about, you know, how can we bring people together and make money off them? You know, how can we, charge for tickets and, you know, charge for liquor and then charge for food. And then people have to buy tables and stuff. Like they were selling the venue really. And the artists just sort of came with the venue. So when you look at disco and all that stuff, people just found a new way to make money. They found other ways to monetize it, which was creating a separate career for the artists and making money off them as an artist.
Yeah. So I guess,
wow.
Yeah, because with the technology we have today, it's definitely a little, I guess, easier to see what may become long lasting compared to things that are standstill.
You know, so funny. You talk about it's funny that you bring it up because you know when you think about an artist who can stand the test of time, right? Think about our new artists that you hear today, and you listen to them, and you're like, okay, I want to support this artist. Let me see what they're working on. You listen to their music, you're like, okay, this is good. The difference between them and like a Luther Vandross or Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston or Barry White, when you hear those records, you're like, you don't even need to see the analytics. You don't want to see numbers. You don't care to see any of that stuff. You just know this is good music. I hear Mark Anthony. I'm like, this is good music. Period. You don't have to do any research or no. We just know again. That's what I mean. You know, to get a record deal, honestly, somebody needs to believe in the music, and those people still exist. Even though they tell you, oh, you got to get your numbers up, you got to become viral on TikTok, and you got to do this and you got to do that. That's not always the case. Sometimes somebody hears something and they're like, man, listen. That person has it. They got it. Like if I heard a new Luther Vandross today, I heard a kid singing and he started blowing like he was Luther. You think I'm asking questions about how many fans he has or how many followers?
No.
Nope.
Damn that. we can get you in the studio, make a record, and I guarantee you, when people hear you, you will have those fans. I don't care about numbers at that point.
Right.
That's what that what's his manager called, who actually, you know, not comparing you to him because he actually turned out to be an asshole, but what's his name? Some Polish guy, right? The manager of Elvis Presley. That's how he found him. He saw him like sing once, like at like a fair or something, doing something. And he immediately got on him. He's like, he just knew. He's like, I gotta sink my claws, and this guy is gonna be huge. And then
did you notice how that manager, he wasn't in the music business?
No,
he was, but he understood how to sell. That's the only thing. He knew how to market. That was it. That's all he needed. He said, well, listen, if I can market a bag of chips, if I can market this cup, if I can market a laptop, I can market this guy. He was marketing in the circus. He had like circus acts and stuff. He was marketing. That's all he was. Music, and we say the music industry is circus. That's what we say today. We've been saying that for years. We say the music industry is like circus because nobody quite gets artists. Artists are very hard to get. They're very complicated people. They have issues like me and you. You know, they may make a ton of money one month, and then the next month they're in debt. It's like, you know, some of them are dealing with drug, alcohol abuse, all sorts of problems and issues. So that was the same type of lifestyle these people had in the circus, because they were being abused. You had people who were not hardly being paid, people who were being mistreated. You had some people they were locking in cages. Like imagine all the mental health issues that come with that. An artist being raped today, it's a lot of sexual abuse. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. And this is why we call the music industry circus. And, you know, it's like we're just a marketing ploy at the end of the day. Like when you see an artist get put out there, it's about how can I connect this artist with millions of people? How can I get millions of eyeballs on this artist so that I can take this artist to a brand or service and get them to give us money to market and promote projects? That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So now with popular demand, because I want to talk about that a little bit before we move into one of our segments here. But with popular demand now that you're, you know, not in the positions like you were in when you were with Island Def Jam, what do you do now with popular demand for the artists that you bring on, for the people that want to connect with you, have a job with you, work with you? What do you do now specifically for them?
Well, we do a little bit of everything, but what we specialize in artist development. Mm-hmm. That's the heart. That's the heart of the company. Right. The heart of the company is taking on new talent and taking what they already have and sort of giving them direction. Because a lot of artists come to me, they'll tell me, "Oh, I sound great. My music is good," and I'm listening to their music. I'm like, "Yeah, your music is great, but it's not epic." Yeah. There's something about your music that's lacking because you lack direction. I tell them, I say, you know, study the greats, study Barry Gordy in Motown, and look at the music that they were creating and why they were creating it. The music itself was a civil rights movement, and people didn't realize that. You know what I'm saying? You have Marvin Gaye putting out what's going on to talk to people about their current conditions. You know what I'm saying? You know, it was like this promotion of Black love. So you have My Girl by the Temptations. So like, you know, whenever you put out music, the music must have a message. You know what I'm saying? Right. A lot of artists don't have messages. So my job is to take an artist who comes into me. They come to me, they say, "Hey, John, you know, I want a long lasting music career. My job is to figure out who you are as a person. Who are you? What's your style? What do you like? Who you are as a human being? What's your goals? What do you believe in?" And when we take those beliefs and those goals and everything, we create a plan for you, a marketing plan for you, so that you can find people who are like you. These are called your fans. These are your followers, people who believe in you, who kind of see things from the same perspective. These are the people who are going to be following your account. These are the people who are going to be streaming your music. These are the people who are going to be buying merchandise, buying tickets to shows, because they're like, that's me. That's a representation of me. I'm sure there's a singer or songwriter out there, Stephanie, that you identify with. You be like, "Man, listen, that's my girl right there." Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, you have that person, that artist, whoever that artist may be. It's like, that's who you follow. That's who you listen to. That's who you support. And if your music doesn't have a message, a clear message, you're not going to last long.
Oh yeah. You want to find that uniqueness in an artist. It's the same thing with like, you can do that for anything almost. I feel like think of like a book. Like no one wants to read the book about the guy who everything was great. He had a great childhood, and then he got a great job, and he married a great person, and then they stayed married, and he had a bunch of kids, and then he died happy. It's like, well, who the fuck wants to read this book? It's just it's just boring. It's normal shit. But if you have a uniqueness to, say, a song, you talk about a struggle you've had, or this problem in life, or where you've been, people connect to those little things.
That's right.
Immediately finds they find that uniqueness, and they become interested, and they can become your long lasting fans, and then that builds more because people end up listening to it from that person. It builds and builds and builds.
Absolutely. People. All right. When you look at music, right? Music is like a mask. It's like everybody has their own issues. Everybody has their own life. Why do I care about you?
Mm-hmm.
Screw you and screw your music for a minute. What are you giving me that's going to help my life today? Because right now I'm at work. I'm stressed out. I'm dealing with this guy drawing pyramids over here.
I knew
I'm dealing with this guy drawing me pyramids over here. How is your music going to help my life? And then you listen to this song and you got scar lip. She's talking about back the fuck up, move the fuck back. You're like, that's the kind of vibe I need right now for this guy in this office. And that's what draws you to the artist. It's not her. It's the message she gave you, so that you can get on with your day. It's like a drug. Music is a drug. We listen to it. It's therapeutic, and it gives us what we need to survive and to keep going.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with that. And I'm sorry to cut us off short here because, believe it or not, we've been talking for quite a while. But I think it's time. Stephanie, do you think it's time?
I think it's time.
I think it's time, John, to do one of our favorite segments we like to do here at Great Morning, and that is, of course, the word of the day. Word of the day. So, how the word of the day works, I will explain it to you and any new listeners out there. Usually Jimmy's here. He's not here today. He's indisposed, unfortunately. I think he's going underway soon with the Navy, so he's going to be around the world soon. So he couldn't be here, but don't worry. He sent me the word. But usually Jimmy opens up the big old dictionary that he has, this very, very old Webster's dictionary signed by Webster himself with thousands upon thousands of words in there. So he opens it up to a random page. He puts his finger down on it and he lifts his finger up. Whatever his finger landed on will be our word of the day. Then, of course, he spells the word. He gives the definition. I give the definition if it's an archaic word, because like I said, it's an old dictionary. And then you, the guest, or any of the guests we've had on, will use that word in a sentence that you create by yourself. And what we judge that word on at the end of the season is how funny the sentence was, how creative the sentence was, and of course, if you use the word correctly. So at the end of the season, we grade all of our guests' sentences and we make a top 10 list. And if you make it on that top 10 list, you get invited back, of course, to the season finale of this season, season 5 of Great Morning. And someone makes it to number 1, where they win a very special prize. But of course, this is just the beginning. This isn't the playoffs yet. So we're just doing it, regular right now. So no pressure, but you're about to get your word of the day. Do you understand the rules?
Yes, I do.
Okay, fantastic. So your word of the day, let me get it up here, is... You ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
What
investment.
Is it? No way.
Investment.
Wow.
So I will give the definition, of course, and I will spell it. I'm pretty sure we all know what that means, but just in case. The action or process of investing money for profit or material result. All right. So that is the definition of investment. Again, it's spelled investment. So investment. So whenever you're ready, just give us a sentence that has the word investment in it, and that will be your word of the day.
Okay, let me see. Investment. Trying to find something clever, but it's hard to find something clever when you're on the spot.
It's on. I know. This is the struggle with all of our guests. We don't. You're not alone.
Wow.
You really aren't.
If you go back and listen to past episodes, people are sitting there like, "Fuck, I can't think of anything." Like,
wow. Okay. An investment in the world is more important than an investment in yourself.
Okay. All right. There you go. There it is.
Okay.
Right there. That's the word of the day right there. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
That was, of course, our word of the day challenge. I know it comes out randomly in the episode and it stops it and everyone's like, fuck, we got to think about this for a second. But thank you for participating in it. And now we're going to move on to something else. I wanted to ask you, because you said, of course, that you met Jay-Z there.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what other, of course, famous artists have you met during your time working in this industry for the last 19 years?
I've met, yeah, wow. It's, you know, so funny when you meet people, it's like sometimes it's so fast because you have all their people around them and stuff. It's like, I don't know, it's like they have their entire entourage there. So it's like you're speed dating. You're in the room, you're shaking hands, you're like, hi, 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 hi.
Yeah.
So I've met everyone. I've met like Funk Flex. I've met Busta Rhymes. I've met Fat Joe. I've met a lot of people. I've met Rihanna. I've met Kanye. When you're in the office, you meet everyone because they all come to the office. But when I never got a chance to really hang out with them. That's the thing. It's like you never get a chance to really kick it with them because you're always working and you're not really invited to the really big parties because that's for the main executives. So you don't get invited out to the 40-40 club and you don't get to pop that bottle. But, they'll come back to the office and pop a bottle with you when the record reaches number one. So, there were certain events we got invited to. I think my most favorite event that I got invited to was probably the screening to Run's house with Rev Run and Russell Simmons. Meeting Russell Simmons was probably one of the best things that I did. Yeah.
What year was that?
Dope.
I can't recall. I know it was in the 2000s, though, early 2000s, like 2007, 2006.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, I forgot exactly when, but it was the season premiere of Run's house. They did it right there by VH1 and MTV in by Times Square. Yeah. So what TRL used to be.
Was the party, you were invited to a party with them, or was it at the office like you were saying?
Oh no, it was at TRL. It was at the VH1 MTV building. Yeah, they did a screening there. It was like a screening, but it was only for the executives at the company. And that's where I came and I saw Rev Run and Russell Simmons and a few other people who came out. But I think that was one of the greatest events that I attended because, just seeing the person who actually created the company that I was at, Russell Simmons, it was like, wow, like, it's like mind blowing.
Oh yeah. You're kind of like a little bit starstruck even then, just like sitting
it's so funny. The rapper, I don't really care for the rappers and the singers, bro. It's like, it's the executives for me. Like when I met Clive Davis, that's the highlight. Like, oh yeah. When Clive Davis stepped on my shoe at the end of Alicia Keys event, I'm like, yeah, that was it. That was it.
You stepped on my shoe.
I looked at him and he said, he said, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, you don't got to apologize to me, Clive. We're good. And then he gave me a piece of advice. He told me, he said, if the person isn't positive, there's nothing that they can do for you. That's what he said. If the person isn't positive, then there's nothing they can do for you. And I took that with me. And I noticed that when I went places or whether I was planning on working with someone, and I would feel their energy. If the energy was negative, I just didn't mess with them. And then I would see other people do business with them and nothing ever came of it. And it was because they were not happy within themselves. People who aren't happy can't create anything. You become stagnant when you're jealous, when you're angry, when you have issues. You have to work on yourself before you do anything. You know what I'm saying? So when I see people who are extremely positive and they're always full of light, they end up having all those types of people around them. And then you get in the room with these powerful people who are good people in the heart, and they can actually do things for you because they've done the work in themselves, regardless of how they grew up or whether or not they had money or not. It's about you dealing with life on your own terms. You know what I mean? Like, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, but that doesn't stop me from being happy. It doesn't stop me from supporting people and being that person that people can come to for advice. If I was negative, I probably wouldn't have the capacity to do the things that I'm doing today.
Oh yeah. And some people probably wouldn't even want to work with you. Like if they met you and you were just kind of like down and just like, well, we got to do this. It's like,
John, what ideas do you have? Oh,
yeah. I don't know. Like, well, I don't know. We just got to work on some of this shit. I'll call you next week. It's like, what?
How do you get a number one? How can you make a number one hit record with that energy? You can't.
Right.
You don't even want to, like, I'm doing it as pretend right now. And part of me doesn't even want to listen to myself. I'm like, I don't want to be on this podcast. Like, imagine if I came on the podcast and I'm like, hey,
Stephanie,
hey,
John, what's up, man?
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
next segment.
You like music, right? Or something like that, right? What's your deal? You're like, that's ridiculous. You don't want to. Yeah. I'm almost like putting myself down like that, thinking about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you meet a lot of people. You meet people at events and stuff, and it's crazy because I hate name dropping. I think that's so corny. That's just, I'm sorry. That's probably why I'm not.
No, that's fine.
People. Yeah, because if you look online, you'll see me in pictures with people, but it's like there's pictures I haven't even posted. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't care to. Like
what I like that you've already done. I'm sorry. What I like that you've already done is when you did name drop someone, is you always bring up the fact, not just that like, wow, it was great just being around this person, but the fact that they gave you those. For those quick minute, maybe they can talk because like you said, they're always surrounded by an entourage or whatever. the quick second that they can say something to you, I like how you bring up that it's always some advice. Like
Right.
Always got something cool like that to say. And you get that from a lot of people that, name dropping or star studded or powerful. Like, for instance, I remember I was fucking 14, 13 years old. I was at the Jersey Shore back when that show was popular. And I just happened to be on the beach, big crowd around someone. I'm like, what's this about? And I end up pushing my way through the crowd on the beach. And there's Snooki. I think I probably told this story on the podcast before, but it was Snooki, who was huge at the time. And like, I wasn't a fan of the show, but I knew, you knew Snooki was. So I just happened to get in front of her and she's like, hi, what's your name? And I was like, oh, Krisha. I shook her hand and she only had a second to talk to every person. She just looked at me and I remember she's just like, stay in school, whatever you do, stay in school. And then she got pushed away like by her entourage and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they always have that quick little bit they can give you and like you take it to heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow. I'm glad she told you that. That's
oh
really
yeah.
nice.
Oh yeah, she was sweet. Yeah, she was nice. On the show, I didn't really watch it, but you see all these, them getting angry. Yeah, they're all angry. But like, when they're not gonna yell at you in public. Like there's a bunch of people. Like I wasn't expecting to like go up to Snooki and then her just be terrible to me. No, she just gave me some advice. I was a young kid, moved me on my way, and I was like, yeah, I probably should stay in school. That's probably a good idea.
Gee, thanks, Snooks.
Worst advice I've ever heard. But yeah, so I like how you brought that up with them. Like, they always had something with you. Like Jay-Z even had something for you in the elevator real quick.
Yeah.
And you always take those little bits of advice and you take them to heart to help you for the future, which is
absolutely.
What better? How can it get better than that? Taking that advice and using it, utilizing it.
Another good piece of advice I got was from Nat Robinson. Nat Robinson is the founder of First Priority Music. So he launched the careers of Audio 2, MC Light, and Iman. So
okay.
It's a legendary hip hop label. This guy was doing deals before Black people were ever doing deals with these record companies on the scale that they're doing it today. So like this guy, wow. He had a deal at Virgin, he had a deal at Warner, he had a deal at Universal, all at the same time. So all his artists were getting on major labels and they were doing imprint deals. Like basically they would release the record through Universal, but then First Priority Music. So he was the first one who was getting these label/distribution deals with these major record companies and getting them to fund his projects. So sorry, that's my bell going off. I don't know who's ringing.
No, you're fine. I didn't even hear it.
But yeah, so he was getting all these different deals, and he was kind of like teaching me how he was doing it. He's a freaking genius, man. So like just sitting there and listening, being able to speak on the phone with him multiple times, and him giving me that knowledge, I was just so appreciative of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're always appreciative of it. It's really kind of wonderful for them to take the time and do that. You hear horror stories sometimes of like these people not being nice. So I always like it when you can find those like just little bits, those little moments of, niceness in them, instead of the meanness or whatever. But yeah, so I always take that shit to heart. I love hearing stories like that. I do have to say though, right now, and this is going to be unfortunate, actually. I don't know if you guys actually can believe this, but we are actually at time. Can you believe that? We've been talking straight for almost an hour here. But yeah, we're actually at time, unfortunately. So we're going to go around the computer screen and do our last minute plugs. That's what we do here. And you can plug anything that you've got. But don't worry, John, I'm saying this right now. You were a wonderful guest already, and we'd love to have you on again to talk more about all this stuff.
Thank you very much.
When Jimmy and Chuck come back. But yes, don't worry. You will have time here before the podcast ends to plug everything that's all about you and everything you want to tell the world. So starting with Stephanie, though, do you have any last minute plugs, my friend?
I do not have any last minute plugs, but I will say this. John, thank you so much for taking the time out and, just being here and just sharing your stories. Like it's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Like I mean, I know that we weren't able to like go in depth with like other things because like there's so much more.
That's why we invite him back.
Yeah, why, like there's so much more to say, and like it's really exciting knowing that you're here, you took time out. So I just want to say thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And of course,
you're welcome, Steph. Thank you. Listen, you support our movement too, man. We appreciate you.
No, of course. That's how we network. That's how that's how things get done. Yeah, I want to also. big shout out to our fans. Thank you, to our listeners. Thank you so much for just chilling and vibing and listening with us. Just thank you so much. And Merms, thank you for being Merms. And that's pretty much it from your Puerto Rican mamacita. You know what I'm saying? They're in mud.
There we go. Well, thank you, Stephanie, for those last minute plugs. And I'll do mine real quick before we get into our honored guest. My last minute plugs are, of course, you can follow Great Morning _ the podcast on Instagram. That is our podcast Instagram page. And on there, you will find, new guests coming out, what's dropping on Wednesday, when specials are coming out, all that stuff. You'll find that information there. You can shop for your merchandise at shopgreatmorning.com. And of course, you can follow You Love Steph on Instagram. You can follow Trip God Jimmy. That's TRYPGODJIMI. You can follow Slightly Special with 2 L's. You can follow Topaz Can on Instagram as well. And of course, at the end of the day, whatever podcast app you're listening to us on, whether it be Apple, Spotify, or you got your own podcast app, because we're on all of it, give us that 5-star rating, leave us a comment. We'd love to read those as well. So please do that. But anyway, that is it for my last minute plugs. Moving on to our honored guest, John. It was wonderful having you on today. Thank you so much. And again, we'd love to have you back. And that's the funny thing, actually, when I want to say that I've noticed that throughout, our almost 5 years of doing this podcast now, is when we have a new guest, right? The episode's always interesting because we learn a lot about that person. But at the same time, it's almost like I feel like it's rapid fire. It's like, all right, so you did this. All right, now we're moving on to 2009. You were doing this. All right, now we're moving on over here. Now you did this. Now you did this. And now we're at where you're at. And we don't get a whole lot of time to go really flesh out a lot of stuff. But that's the fun part of when they come on for a second time or even the third, is I feel like we get way more into it with the person. We know them way more intimately, not in a sexual intimately way. I don't mean it like that, but more friendly way, the old term for intimate. So I expect you to come back on at some point.
I can imagine my artist being here, and I can imagine my artist Ari West being here right now. He would be like, pause.
Wait, hold on. Intimate. Yeah. No, I didn't mean it that way. I meant just so the listeners feel like they know you now more as a person.
Absolutely. Of course.
Again, so we get more in depth with that. But yes, John, please, if you have any last minute plugs, tell the people where they can follow you. They could, go on your website, tell them all that right now, please.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah. Last minute plugs for John Kwatakye-Atiko is you can follow me at King John Lives. That's spelled together, King John Lives. At King John Lives Instagram. And my website is John Kwatakye-Atiko. That's JohnKwatakyeAtiko.com. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Yeah, it was an honor having you on. Thank you for coming here. And, we hope to see you again in the future. And
absolutely. I'll be back. I'll be back.
Of
Get to the chopper.
So, yeah. And that, of course, right there on that Arnold note, that was our episode. Great morning.
Great morning.
Great morning, guys.
Great morning.
Great morning.
Great morning. Great morning.